I think the major impact of the Reentry Project is to opening the eyes of not just people in Philadelphia, but other cities as well, as the damaging impact of reentry, how so many people are being sent to prison and jail, and how difficult it is for them to find, things such as employment or housing when they're released. But also the positive side of it, like, yes, this person did do, a crime, or he did commit a crime, but he's out now, he's been out for a while, and he's trying to make amends for that. He's doing his best. It's very difficult for him to do that because of, these different barriers. But, what can we do to fix that?
The coverage was phenomenal. During the course of the year, there were so many insightful articles on reentry that educated ordinary people. Most folks who are working every day and who have no contact with the criminal justice system because their families are not impacted, they really don't think about criminal justice other than if they're watching the news and they see something horrendous, or if there's a case that might catch their interest. Their families aren't involved, they aren't involved, so criminal justice is very low on their radar, and by the same token, reentry is very low on their radar. I mean, if it doesn't affect you, why even think about it? But the reentry articles were so well written that it got ordinary people who never think about reentry considering different aspects. And one of the main things that we try to do as community organizations that are pushing for criminal justice reform and the struggle against mass incarceration is to get people motivated, get them educated, get them talking about subjects that they rarely think about. So the Reentry Project, during the course of the year, did a really phenomenal job in focusing on areas that most folks don't think about, and that's very important.
What it was for me was where it was coming from different areas. So it was not just coming from the Philadelphia Inquirer, my usual piece of information, but you had online material coming out, all the personal stories that were coming out. And at the same time, on the national stage, the whole discussion about incarceration, the size, the amount of the population that's incarcerated. And so I just think it came out at a time when a bunch of things were happening. And it was just, I thought it was brilliant that it was for a whole year concentrated on one topic, taking it from different places. And I had never seen anything like that before.
There was this kind of mantra that I had never been exposed to before, but what really resonated with me is no stories about us without us. And that came a lot from people who had gone through reentering society after being in jail or prison, and hearing their takes on the journalism we were doing, and then looking at, well, maybe did you think that this voice was missing?
The Reentry Project, it was my first experience with collaboration, and I met a lot of really good people that I continue to communicate with now, in fact, on different things. So it's kind of broadened my network of people in the city. I think too that it just, the whole project just taught me a lot about, being open to things that I think that I might not have admitted that I was closed-minded about, but maybe that I was. And so I think it's just helped me, personally as a journalist, really look at things with a more open mind.
When it started, it was totally something new to me because I never worked with a project that was working with so many different newsrooms in the city, focused on the same subject. So it was nice because if someone from the Inquirer, for example, published something, then it was a possibility that, Billy Penn would pick up that story and just share it. And vice versa for me, if I was to publish something with Billy Penn, it might go over to WHYY and it might be shared that way.
Each newsroom has its own culture and also its niche. And one of the things that we at WHYY have been trying to do is get beyond our niche and expand our audience. And I feel like one of the best ways to expand that audience is collaborating with someone who has a kind of audience that you're trying to expand to. So whether it's doing something with Telemundo because you're trying to do a better job of covering stories of interest to the Latino community, that that works better, and you learn so much that is just, it's not the stuff you formally set out to learn, but you learn it along the way.
I think solutions journalism is extremely valuable. It's showing people, a problem, but then showing a possible solution to the problem, or maybe a way around the problem or dealing with the problem.
When you, if you're covering something intensely, you can run the risk of something where, from the listener or reader or viewer point of view, it can seem like, oh, I've heard that story before. And asking about what's the solution angle often leads to stories that are very different from our past coverage. The other thing is that I find that engagement is bigger on solution stories.
So the Blueprint event was an idea that came out of the mind of Jean Wadowski, and she sent an email to myself and to Reuben Jones, who's the executive director of Frontline Dads, and she invited us to a meeting. And we sat down at the meeting, and she talked about how she wanted to do this event that would really shine the light on reentry and how it should be done.
I think that it raised the awareness not only of the public, but definitely of employers and my staff who works in food insecurity. We were not aware, I do not think, of the scope and how large the issue is, of the number of people reentering, and all the people involved in trying to help.
And then what we did is we invited politicians, heads of universities, the movers and the shakers in the city of Philadelphia, and the ordinary community. And they came out to the Franklin Institute to listen to the ideas of returning citizens on how reentry should be structured. And we told the politicians, we're inviting you to this to listen. Most times when a politician gets invited to an event, it's to present their ideas. But this event was to have the whole city listen to returning citizens, and it was live streamed by WHYY. It was broadcast by WURD. It was a unique moment when elements from the entire city were actively listening to the voice, the thoughts, the ideas of folks who are formerly incarcerated. And that rarely happens in any city, less more Philadelphia. I think here in Philadelphia, some of the things that we talked about in the reentry blueprint are now actual initiatives that we're moving forward. So I think that is extremely important, and so often that doesn't happen.